Oh, this thing is just so much of a blast. It has so much grip. I could be pushing this thing a lot harder. Oh, this thing is just so much fun in these corners. Well, welcome. Today we're doing something a little bit different than my usual video. We have this absolutely beautiful 2018 Porsche 718 Cayman. We recently took it on trade. We actually took this one on trade for a Porsche Panamera, which is their sedan. So obviously the customer liked the Porsche products, just switching from a little two-seater to a more comfortable four-door sedan. So we're going to do a little photo shoot of this 718 Cayman. It's an absolutely beautiful automobile. So come and join me while I try to take some artistic photos of this beautiful Cayman for inventory, and we'll also talk about it. This one's a clean Carfax vehicle, only 9,508 miles at the time of making this video. Very low miles for a vehicle like this, 2018. Obviously, when people buy little two-seat sports cars like this, people don't necessarily buy these things for daily drivers or commuter vehicles. A lot of times people buy vehicles like this as a nice weekend sports car, and obviously being in 2018 with only about 10,000 miles, I think that was more than likely the case for this one. Absolutely beautiful lines, kind of follows that same design theme we see throughout the Porsche product line. Very, very similar to its bigger brother, the 911. Tell me what you think of these pictures. I'm a little bit fanatical about taking pictures. As you can see, most car dealerships don't go to such lengths taking pictures of their inventory, but there's a saying, a picture tells 1,000 words. And when people buy cars, especially ones like this, it's an emotional thing, and what better way to create a nice emotional response than making these things, our cars, look as pretty as possible. This one doesn't need much help at all. It's absolutely stunning. Some of the earlier Caymans featured a flat 6-cylinder engine. When Porsche updated the Cayman, they switched from the flat 6 to a new turbocharged flat 4-cylinder engine. Some people might be a little bit disappointed about going from a 6-cylinder to a 4-cylinder, but I can tell you this little flat 4-cylinder engine is a fantastic engine. It might not quite sound as good as the old flat 6, but it still sounds very nice. Has a really nice tone to it. Kind of reminds me of like this flat 4-cylinder. It actually sounds very similar to the flat 4-cylinder engine they put in Subarus, which makes sense because I guess originally when Subaru back in the day was developing their flat 4, I guess Porsche designed it. I don't know what was in the 60s or 70s for Subaru, and they still use that same design today. So there's probably a little DNA, a little design sharing between this engine and or similarities between this and what's a Subaru flat 4-cylinder engine. And the thing when you're in a vehicle like this, unlike a luxury car which they try to refine all noise and vibrations completely out of the vehicle, this is a performance vehicle, so Porsche is not trying to do that. And with the engine directly right behind you, you can feel it, you can hear it, and it just adds to the performance driving experience. That feeling of having the noise of the engine and the vibration of it right behind you. This is one of the best handling cars that you'll ever drive. The reason why Porsche went to the Cayman platform is that generally, having a mid-engine vehicle versus a rear-engine vehicle like the 911, where you actually have the engine mounted behind the rear axle, there's a reason why the 911 is really one of the only vehicles that has the engine mounted behind the rear axle, because it's really hard to make a vehicle drive perfectly, have a balanced handling on a racetrack with having the engine that far behind you. But Porsche has spent 50 years refining and improving the 911, so even though it does have its engine mounted in a less than perfect area behind the rear axle, they've engineered it to be an amazing sports car. But when they came to the Cayman, they weren't handcuffed, because there's our Porsche purists, and they would freak out if the 911 had nothing else but an engine mounted behind the rear axle, because that's the way it's always been. But when the Cayman came along, or I guess the car that it's based off of, the Boxster, Porsche wasn't handcuffed by the same, lineage as the 911, where they piss off customers for putting the engine in a different spot. So Porsche, rightly so, put the engine in the middle of the vehicle, like, a lot of, Ferrari and Lamborghini, because that's a better place to put the engine. And I've even heard some rumors, and I don't know if it's true or not, that the Cayman perform so well, especially the like the GTS and the higher performance versions of the Cayman, that Porsche actually has to neuter it a little bit because they don't want the Cayman to outperform the much more expensive flagship 911. That's a little bit of speculation, but you can do some internet searches and you can find a lot of people saying that they think that's the case. It's not something I'm making up. All right, a little segue. Let's go back to taking some pictures of this absolutely lovely 2018 Cayman. One of my favorite automotive publications, Car and Driver magazine, I always like to check out. They do a little overview of vehicles, and they have a CD rating, and the CD rating on the 2018 Cayman is a 10 out of 10. And I can tell you, they don't give everything 10s out of 10s all the time. It's pretty rare where you see a vehicle 10 out of 10, but they love it that much. And you can pretty much see any comparison test where they have the Porsche Cayman competing against any other vehicles. Usually the Cayman is a winner, and there's a reason for that. I mean, look at the thing. It's absolutely beautiful, but it also drives absolutely heavenly. And for a 2018 of only about 10,000 miles, I can assure you this vehicle is almost spotless. Hardly a mark on it. This thing is very, very close to showroom condition. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect. Being a 2018, I'm sure you'll be able to find some imperfection somewhere on it. I can't see any as of yet, but this thing is absolutely stunning. So if you do live in a different part of the country, we do offer shipping nationwide. We work with lots of transportation companies, and we have a big pre-owned business. We sell vehicles out of state all the time. We do it all the time on a weekly and monthly basis, so we can get this shipped anywhere. Contact us for more information and we'll get you a shipping quote. But the good news is, if you live a little bit closer, we do offer complimentary shipping to Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, and no extra charge. So we can put this in our car hauler, we can tow it to you, we can print up all the paperwork, serve our mobile delivery service. This beautiful 718 Cayman could be all yours. Really nice color combination, and once I have a chance, I also have a build sheet on this one, and I'll go over all the optional equipment. With Porsche, often options are a la carte, so when you deal with a pre-owned or any Porsche product, they all can be very different because there's such a wide variety of different option packages that you can pick on them. This one, I think, if I can recollect, if I can remember, I think this one has about $20,000 in options on it. So obviously, when you're doing your Cayman shopping, you got to compare apples to apples, because maybe you might see another Cayman that might seem like a little bit better of a deal, but if that's a base one and this has $20,000 in options, maybe that other one is not that great of a deal. All right, not the brightest day today for photos, which actually is not a bad thing. Contrary to what people say, oh, it's so sunny out, it's a nice day for photos. It's actually better to take photos of a vehicle when it's a little overcast like this, especially the interior pictures. Sometimes when it's really bright out, the photos can get washed out. Cars are basically like, big mirrors, so they can reflect light. So this is just perfect conditions right now to take pictures of this Cayman. Not too dark, not too light, just perfect, especially for the interior pictures. And the interior is looking just as nice as the outside. So we have some buttons right here. There's a button to operate the rear spoiler. There's a drive mode selector, so you can put this in sport mode. That's probably going to liven up the throttle a little bit. It'll change the behavior of the transmission. Maybe we'll put it in sport mode. Oh, it also changed the sound of the exhaust. It got a little bit louder. Did you hear that? So I'll rev it. That's a normal mode. Then we'll put it in sport mode. Ooh, that sounds nice. I like it. I have to say, this is probably one of the, I drive a lot of cars. This has to be probably one of the best sounding 4-cylinder engines that I've ever heard, at least for a stock one. I do like the sound of Subarus when they have exhaust on them. I used to have a Subaru Outback Sport that, for, you know, it had a big loud exhaust on it, which is pretty out of place for a 43-year-old like me. It probably looked more like an 18-year-old. Should have been driving that car. And I've since traded that vehicle in for a Tesla, believe it or not. But I did have a lot of fun driving that car with that exhaust system, even though my family thought it was kind of ridiculous. But people aren't going to think you're ridiculous in this Cayman. This is not a this does not give the image of my old Subaru like I'm a, you know, 18-year-old kid driving it. You know, this is a mature person's, this is what we call a gentleman's sports car. All right, let me pull out the build sheet before I switch cameras and just go over the options really quick on this one. All right, so the PDK transmission, the 7-speed Porsche PDK transmission, that was a $3,200 upgrade. These beautiful 20-inch CurS wheels, $2,780 for those. This lovely shade of GT Silver Metallic, $650 for those. 14-way power sport seats, $2,330. This beautiful black Bordeaux red tone leather seat trim, $2,950. The premium package plus with 14-way power seats, bundling lots of great features, $3,180. Bose surround sound system, $990. Heated multi-function steering wheel, $470. Lane change assist, $700. Connect, I don't know what that is, I'll have to check on that, $1,020. And a smoking package. Well, I can assure you, this vehicle has never been smoked with, even though it has a smoking package. It still even has a twinge of that new car leather smell. So you can see original base MSRP $55,300. You add in all the equipment, it goes up to $74,630. And of course, we can print you out a copy or email you one if you want to peruse it yourself. Even though I am a manual transmission enthusiast, the PDK transmission that Porsche uses is amazing, and it's more efficient. It gives you better performance and better fuel efficiency than the comparable manual. So if you do are not a big fan of manual transmissions, or you want to drive and stop and go traffic and stuff like that, well, obviously this transmission, the PDK, will be a little bit more friendlier for those types of driving situations. All right, now let's do some interior pictures and a few more exterior pictures. Really beautiful interior color. I think I love the contrasting reds and the black stuff on the interior, and I think it does go pretty nice with the silver exterior. A little bit more of an exciting look versus a more muted like black interior. The leather is in excellent shape. We'll probably have our interior guy maybe recondition the leather a little bit, kind of brighten it up. And even though the Cayman is a little sports car, you have a decent amount of cargo space. Definitely a little bit better than the Boxster, the convertible version of the Cayman. And the nice thing too is not only do you have rear storage, but you have storage up here as well, and it's pretty sizable.
Come look at it.
Yeah, it's a beauty. Only 10,000 miles.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
All right, man, have a good weekend. All right, as you can see, we have a fan of the Cayman. He is awestruck. He saw it and he just had to come out, take a look at it, talk to me about it. Gave him his card, so maybe he might be interested in it, but he took some pictures of it. And yeah, he was just he was thinking this thing is absolutely beautiful. And I think he's right. All right, so we're just talking about the nice I guess you call it a frunk. Tesla coined that term frunk, or the trunk in the front. So the storage in the back, the storage in the front. For a little car, this has a lot of storage space. So this thing has a ton of storage space for a little car. So you and your significant other go for a little weekend getaway, no issue at all. All right, so we're gonna take that for a little spin. So even though this is the most basic version of the Cayman as far as power goes, it's still very fast. 300 horsepower from the turbocharged flat 4 right behind me. Very quick. And you know, obviously there are versions of the Cayman that do have more horsepower, but I can tell you, it's not a very big car. With 300 horsepower, this thing is pretty darn fast. I think it would be plenty for most people. And you know, you can only go so fast on public roads. Obviously, you know, if you're a speed demon or you're gonna go on track days, maybe that's a different story, but this has plenty of power, plenty of performance for everyday driving. And you know, here in the Pacific Northwest, we have some absolutely beautiful areas to explore. You know, the Oregon and Washington coast is some of the most beautiful driving that I've ever encountered in my life, and I've driven a lot. I've driven across country 3 times. I've driven all over New England, where I'm originally from. But especially the Oregon coast, I would have to say there's a strip of road on the Pacific Coast Highway that strip of road between Newport, Oregon and Florence, Oregon has to be some of the most beautiful driving that I've ever seen. If you've never been there, if you want to do some absolutely beautiful driving, make it to, you know, Newport, Oregon, and drive either from Newport to Florence or Florence to Newport. So the nice thing about the PDK is that you have a shifter right here, so you can either use manual mode here. You have the plus and minus for changing gears, or you have these nice little steering pedal shifters right here. You know, it's fun. I don't think you get any better performance with you shifting versus the car. The car is a brain. The engine computer does a pretty good job knowing which gear to put it in, even during high performance driving. So usually when I'm driving a vehicle like this, if it doesn't have a manual, I just leave it, let the car do the thinking. All right, we got a green light. Very nice. And the nice thing about sport mode is that you can definitely tell it holds out the gears longer. It shifts the gears at red line, and then it keeps it in the current gear before it changes gears. So that's really great for performance driving. And then you can just take it out of sport mode, and then it will drive in a more economical manner out of sport mode. It'll shift gears sooner and things like that. It won't hold out the gears quite as long. It'll, you know, shift to a higher gear a little bit more quicker. But yeah, this thing is absolutely rock solid. You know, no vibrations or squeaks. Absolutely instantaneous, you know, steering. This thing just wants to dart into corners. It's almost like it's hardwired to my brain. The steering inputs are just instantaneous. And you know, this car was designed to be one of the best handling cars that money can buy, you know, within reason. But you know, $75,000 in 2018, that's a lot of money. If you adjust for inflation, I mean, as much of inflation we've seen, you know, in the 2020s, that's probably more like, you know, $85,000 or $90,000 $90,000 in today's money. The transmission kicks into a lower gear very quickly. As soon as you hit that throttle, it changes instantly. So I'm just kind of putting along at 40 miles an hour. It's in 4th gear, but watch when I step on the throttle. Instantly kicks it down 2 gears to the 2nd gear, knows exactly what gear to put it in. It's not hunting around for gears. And then boom, So it's responding to my performance driving with my heavy foot. But after a couple seconds, once it realizes that I'm just kind of putting along again, it quickly changes into a higher gear. Now it's in 5th gear. I'm 45 miles an hour and it's a little over 2,000 RPM. So the PDK gives you 7 forward gears. And even though it's a little car, for a little 2-seater, it's got a very comfortable, spacious interior. I'm not a teeny person, I'm 6'2". I have plenty of headroom up here. Plenty of a very, very comfortable place to be. The seats, these are also the upgraded 14-way power seats. Very comfortable. I could spend all day driving this vehicle. It's a great little road trip car. Sometimes, when you buy, sports cars like this, sometimes they can get uncomfortable after an hour or two. But if you really want to, go visit places, find some beautiful places to go driving, you want a vehicle that you can pretty much be comfortable, all day driving or all weekend driving. This is a vehicle, even though it's a performance car, I would have no issue packing it up with stuff and going on a 3-day road trip in it, along the coast, Mount Rainier National Park. I'll be comfortable driving this thing all day long. And it's, fairly quiet. I still have in sport mode, so the exhaust is a little bit, louder, but it's quiet. It's not gonna beat you up for those long drives, those long treks. Looks like the sun's trying to poke out. It's turning into another beautiful July day here in the Pacific Northwest. And up here is one of my favorite little curvy roads I like to take performance cars on. It's curvy, it's bumpy, so it does a really good job showing how well a chassis is set up. Because you can have a smooth curvy road, and that's one thing, but how does the car react to performance driving, hard cornering, when the chassis is also kind of being upset in those corners by a bumpy, uneven road? Well, this is a great road to explore that on. So I'm gonna stop here for a second, let some of those cars get some distance in front of me. I'm not gonna break the speed limit, I'm not gonna do anything illegal, but I do want a little bit of a head start for some lovely curvy roads, and maybe I'll roll down these windows and hear some of that flat 4-cylinder music from this Cayman 718. All right, here we go. Oh, so much fun. Doesn't get much better than this. Oh, a wonderful sports car and a lovely curvy road. You can see how the road's bumpy, but this thing is just doing perfectly fine. This is one of my favorite corners here, but we got a utility worker here, so I'm not going to fly through this corner. Then you also have a great stability control system that will keep you from spinning out of control. But remember, it can't overcome stupidity or the laws of physics, but it does a great job limiting the amount of power and limiting too much oversteer in the corners. Whoa! Oh, this thing is just so much of a blast. It has so much grip. I could be pushing this thing a lot harder. Oh, this thing is just so much fun in these corners. It's like having your own personal amusement park ride. It didn't take me long to catch up to the traffic up here. I wish this road was like 5 miles long. Unfortunately, it's not. All right. Well, that ends our little spin up here. I'm gonna turn around. And may I also add, well, I just stop here for 1 second. This might not seem like a very fancy apartment complex, but I can tell you they have one amazing view. Look at that. That's the port of Tacoma. You can see the Tacoma Dome over there. Ships, tugs, highly bullish waterway. I actually sail. I have my boat right over there. Absolutely beautiful. They have an awesome view. All right, enough of that. Well, unfortunately, the fun is now coming to an end. I wish I could play hooky for the rest of the day and sneak off. Maybe go for a drive around Mount Rainier National Park or somewhere beautiful and find an endless curvy road and enjoy this car, but unfortunately I have to work. And I have someone calling me now again. Busy day. Oh man, busy day. I think and trying to make this video, I think I've had three phone calls. And then that guy who stopped to admire the car. But anyways, back to this lovely curvy road, well, yeah, that pretty much sums up the video on the 718 Cayman. Absolutely heavenly automobile for driving in corners. 300 horsepower, oodles and oodles of grip. This is a vehicle that will put a smile on your face. If you're feeling a little bit depressed, no need for medication. Just take a blast on a curvy road like this in this wonderful car, and I guarantee you it'll put a big smile on your face. Life is short, and if you've always dreamed of having a Porsche, don't wait. Get one now. Enjoy it now. That's all I gotta say. Well, thank you so much for joining me in this video. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you soon, and have a wonderful day.